What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I just realized today is probably the first dirt bike video of the season for you guys, so I'm super pumped about it. And we got a good one here for you. I've had a lot of requests for this video, and hopefully it helps you guys out, because today we are doing a valve adjustment on a 250F Honda, specifically a 2006. So you guys that are still running carbureted bikes, a little bit older bikes, you guys are gonna love this video. So stay tuned. Give you some more updates too as to what's been going on in the with the channel. All right, and right here we have our 06 CRF250R, and this is actually one of my students' bikes. They are needing a valve adjustment. So motor had a full rebuild about 30 hours ago, and so it is time to do a valve adjustment. It's a dang good thing we did, because they are very, very far off. But before we get into that, let's talk about a couple things. A little bit of an update with the channel. So this is a cool update. We did get a US General Series 3 toolbox, which has been it's been needed. I've got this thing almost completely full. That's pretty pumped. I'm pretty pumped about it, I should say. We have also got the sled up for sale for the year. I am upgrading to a Gen 5 for real this time. So if anybody's interested in this sled in the Utah, Colorado, Idaho area, hit me up and let me know. It is for sale, 9K, 1,800 miles about. And then the big news, which I'm super excited about, is the new Gas MC450. So I picked this up a couple weeks ago, and this is my new daily driver. So this bike rips. We just put an MX-34 on the back. Has 30 hours on it, so the other tire was a little bit shot, but this thing is sick. I'll do a full video on this to show you guys everything I've done to it, everything I'm going to do to it, and then just tell you a little bit more about this bike. So super pumped on that. We got the Royal Enfield over here, nothing new on it. And oh yeah, one more thing. We got a TTR 110 for Nixon. So we've been ripping that thing, and it is decked out. It's got suspension already on it. And a full FMF system. So pretty sick little bike. Anyway, that's pretty much it for updates. Let's go ahead, let's jump into this, and I'll show you guys kind of what you need to do to get to this point. Okay, first thing you've got to do, obviously, is remove the seat, your two back bolts on the seat, remove your tank. This one has an oversized tank. So it has this bracket on the top, but normally it's just going to be this little bolt right there. And then once the tank and the seat are removed, you have access to the valve cover. Pull your valve cover off, and then you're going to set your timing to top dead center. Now, let me show you the timing marks in here. There is a timing mark in there. You can see if this will focus into that hole. Maybe it will. There's two little grooves. You want to be in between those two little grooves. And the piston will be at top dead center. That's kind of hard to see. But you can see this on the cam gear. There is a line here and a line here on the cam gear that's supposed to line up flush with the top of the head. And then one more check over here, and this is how you're going to roll your engine over, is there is a hole. Should get a flashlight. Let me get a flashlight and then I'll show you guys. There's a dot. Oh, you can see it right there. There's a dot on the gear that's supposed to line up with that little arrow. So as long as the dot on that gear is lined up with that arrow, you're flush with your cam gear at the top of the head, and you have your marks lined up on the flywheel side. You are at top dead center, and then you can check your valves. So let me get you set up on a tripod, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so what we're looking at here, and I'm going to try to make this as clear as I can with that overhead view with the camera here, but what we're looking for is a valve adjustment of 0.28 millimeters on the exhaust and 0.13 millimeters on the intake. So I have, let's see here, there is my 1.3. So my 0.13 millimeter right there. And then I'm going to find my 2.8 millimeter for my exhaust. And I already had it out somewhere, which is probably right there. Is that it? Yes, it is. Now, if you guys need some feeler gauges, I'll put a link down below of these ones specifically, and they're good ones. You can read them. They're really nice. They're tapered on the end. Let's go ahead and check the intake first. Intake is going to be 0.13 millimeters. So right here is your intake lobe. 1, 2. That little hose is kind of in the way. Let me get that out of the way for you. So we've got 2 intake lobes. It's a 4-valve head. We got 1, 2 right there. And what we're going to do is check our intake adjustment. So take your 0.13 feeler gauge, and then this is the fun part here, is you got to stick it right underneath this lobe, and it does not fit. So I'm going to take my 1.3 and put it under there. It does not fit. So with these Hondas, I'll explain this now. With these Hondas, they are very temperamental to starting. If you have one of these Hondas, 450 or 250, that is hard to start, most of the time it is due to valve adjustment. So being that my 1.3 does not fit, I'm going to go to a smaller feeler gauge. We're going to go and we're going to try, based on just how tight it feels right now, I'm going to go with a 0.08, see how that feels. I have a feeling that we are going to be closer to that range, if not even tighter than that, which in our case is a good thing we're doing a valve adjustment. So 0.08 on my valve adjustment. Let's see if we can get that in there. Yep, 0.08 millimeters does not fit. Holy cow. Okay, so that's not good. So why are the valves so recessed on this engine? Well, these Hondas are known for having a very soft metallurgy on the valves, and what happens is the valve recedes a lot, which then makes your valve adjustment very, very far off. So when you do that, when you let your valves go for a long time and you don't adjust them, especially on these Hondas, then the valves are always being pushed open with the cams, and that makes for a very hard start scenario. See, I got my 0.06 feeler gauge there, and nothing's happening. So Bryson, if you're watching this video, it's a dang good thing we are doing a valve adjustment, because this is not good. Also, I already checked the exhaust valves before I started running this video, and they are completely tight. So we're going to go ahead and pull this apart. I'm going to explain to you guys what we're dealing with. I can't get a 0.06 feeler gauge in there, so I'm going to try my smallest feeler gauge I have on this, which is a 0.03 millimeter feeler gauge. I think that is the smallest that I have, and you guys can see it is like paper. So let's see if this is going to fit or not. I hope it does. It gives me something to go off of other than just closed. Nope, it don't fit. It don't fit. Okay, so this is about as bad as it gets right now. What that means is our valves are reseated to the point where our little valve buckets are all the way up, and they're touching the cam basically 100% of the time. And then over here on the rocker assembly for the exhaust valves, which are right here, and I guess I'll demonstrate for you anyway how the exhaust valve measurement would work. Exhaust valve is supposed to be 0.28 millimeters. And as you can see, I go to put this underneath, and nothing. I can't get it underneath it. So we're going to do a full valve adjustment. Nothing on that one. I'll go around to the other side. We'll try it. And let's see. These are kind of hard to get to. Nope, nothing. Can't get it underneath there. So let's go with the 0.06 mil. See if we can. Let's go 0.05. Even if this just barely slips under there, that gives us something to go off of for numbers. But ooh, oh, nope, not fitting. Thought it would. Nope, nothing. So worst case scenario here. So I'm going to show you guys how to adjust this. Okay guys, next thing we need to do before we can move on with our valve adjustment is go ahead and break free. Holy cow, that is tight. There we go. It's not supposed to be that tight. I bet it's tight because there's no copper washer on here, which it's supposed to have. So we'll put a copper washer on it when we go back with it. But remove this 8 millimeter on the chain tensioner. Oh, it does have the washer, and it's one of those little aluminum washers, as you guys can see. So anyway, it was really tight though. And then take a little flathead screwdriver, put it into your chain tensioner, And what you're going to do is you're going to turn it clockwise, and this is loosening the chain tension. Now once you get it to a certain point, it will lock in place, just like that. And now our chain, I'll show you guys right up here, our chain is loose. As you can see, I'm able to lift it up now. So that's what we want. We want our chain tensioner backed off so we can remove the cam now. Okay, now with the cam chain loose, we can take the cam cap bolts off. And there are just 4 of these. And clearly these have been over tightened because they should pop loose. Torque on those is 7 foot-pounds, 7.6 or 7.7 foot-pounds. The fact that oh my gosh, yeah, that was snug. Still snug. So that was over tightened. Which on these is very important that we don't over tighten. So we'll go back together the correct way with it. And that little impact that I used, it should hit like twice and pop those off. So that's kind of concerning. Okay, those are backed out all the way. Pull those bolts out, we'll put them aside. Okay, the next thing we want to do is take some safety wire, and we are going to grab this cam chain once we get the cam out. Where is my... So pop our cam caps off. We're going to use that safety wire in just a second. And there's going to be these little rings right here. Those rings, keep track of those. You don't want to lose those. Those are positioner rings, alignment rings, whatever you want to call them. I can't even remember what the manual calls them. Anyway, so do not lose those. You cannot get these cam caps mixed up because this one has an oil port. This one does not. Oil port goes in right here on this side, as you can see right there. The exhaust rocker assembly is held in by a pin right here, and that pin moves left and right. You can see it kind of moving left and right a little bit. And because of this rocker assembly being binding up on this cam here, it's not wanting to let me pop it out. So just move the bearing over on the one side like that, and then you can do it. Now roll your chain off of your cam, and hopefully you guys can see I'm not blocking all of it. There's your cam removed. Do not drop that cam. That will be trash if you do. Put a piece of safety wire up through there, and then just tie it to the frame so it doesn't fall down into the motor. And there you go, cam is removed. Okay, now here's the fun part. We get to remove the buckets with the shims, and there's the bucket. I don't really keep track of which side the bucket goes in, but I will keep track of which side the shim goes in. So now we got our buckets out. You can see the shim sitting on top of those valve keepers there. And what we want to do is we want to pull them out and then keep track of which one goes where. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my right intake shim out, and then my left intake shim out. And I'm going to line them up exactly how they would be over here on the bench. And then for the exhaust, just go ahead, roll the rocker assembly back and grab the shim. There's one. And roll the rocker assembly back, grab the shim. There's two. Okay, last thing before we kind of walk away from this, we want to inspect this little roller right here. Make sure that there's no excessive play, it's not grinding, doing anything weird like that. And then make sure there's no play in this rocker arm assembly on the pin that it rides on. So looks pretty good there. I've got no worries with that. Other than that, you know, just take a visual inspection, make sure there's no shavings, things like that. These lobes right here where the bearings rest, they might have some marking on it, but they're perfectly fine because there's no interference on these, so you should be good to go. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and check our valve shim sizes, and then we're going to go ahead and put our new valve shims in. So the first thing we need to know is the size of the shims at hand, and then we will go ahead and adjust accordingly. So what we're looking for is we need to meet a certain valve adjustment, and that is, where's my pencil? 0.12 millimeters on intake and 0.28 millimeters on exhaust. So this is plus or minus 0.03 millimeters. So what that means is I can be basically 0.09 to 0.015 or 0.15. On this one here I can be plus or minus 0.03 millimeters, so I could be 0.25 to 0.31 millimeters. So being that we couldn't fit any shims in any of these, our valves have receded quite a bit. And what I mean by receded is they've come up in the head, which has then taken the clearance away. So what we're going to do is we need to measure our shims that we have, and then we need to figure out how much smaller to make these shims so that we can get this tolerance, this valve adjustment tolerance. So all you need is a pair of digital calipers or analog, whatever floats your boat. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure the shims that we have, and we're going to write that down. This will be plenty accurate for what we're dealing with today. And what I've got here so far is a 1.7 millimeter shim. So I'm going to write that down. 1.70 millimeter on intake right. On intake left, I've got also a 1.7 millimeter. So I'm going to go 1.70. Exhaust right side. This one is thick. We got a 2.65 millimeter shim. So 2.65, and then on the left exhaust we have a 2.57, which is more than likely, yep, 2.55. So a 2.55 shim, and that is our baseline. So this is what we have to work off of. Okay, so the easy math on this is that we need to take and we need to figure out how to bring those valves, allow those valves to sit where they are, but shim these out so that we have a gap between our rocker assembly or our cam and our valve itself. So being that we had no gap, what we want to do is we want to take off this distance, this 12 millimeter or 28 millimeter off of these shims, and that will bring this valve bucket lower, which will then create a gap between the cam and the valve. And then it will also, by going down 0.28 on the exhaust, will change the gap between the rocker arms and the valve. So if we do our math here correctly, and I'm going to go off of that higher tolerance. So because we have a tolerance of plus or minus 0.03 millimeters, I'm going to go ahead and go 15 on this, and I'm going to go 31 on that. That way I know that when I get it back together, I should be within our correct valve adjustment tolerance. So if we do the math here, we go 2.65 minus 0.28, and then 2.55 minus 0.28, and then down here minus 0.1, actually we're going to go on our high tolerance, so 0.15, and then this one's actually going to be, 0.31, 0.31, and that's what I'm going to subtract off of these. That will shrink my shim, which will allow me to have a gap. So 265 minus 0.31, we're looking at a shim of 2 point, and we want to kind of round to the nearest. If we go with a 2 point, what is that? 2.36, right? So we'll go with a 2.35 millimeter shim. This one here, we're going to take basically 30 off of that. We can go with a 2.25 shim, 2.25 millimeter. So that's my new shim size. That's what I'm going to go with on those. This one here, I'm going to go with a 1.55 millimeter shim, and then a 1.55 millimeter shim. And that should give me my tolerances that I'm looking for. So let's find those. We've got our good shims now here, and we're going to go ahead and put them in and check our valve clearances. So I will put a link down below where you guys can get this hot cam shim kit for those of you that are adjusting a CRF250. And yeah, we'll go from there. As far as putting this back together, what I'm going to do here is, rather than install the cam chain and everything, because this was so far off, I would like to put the cam in with the new shims in, snug it down without putting a timing chain on and actually timing it, and just see what we have, because we were completely tight on these. So we want to check that, and then we'll go from there and see what we have. Okay, these two shims, just set them right in. These ones here, we want to be really careful not to drop them. So what I'm actually going to do is use a magnet, and using my magnet, I'm going to get the shim kind of in place here, and then we can drop it down in, just like so, because we don't want to drop that down into the motor. That would kind of suck. Just using a little flathead here to kind of get that in place. There we go, there's that one. Now we'll get our other shim. These are kind of a bugger, just because this rocker arm is not all the way out, but not impossible, just kind of challenging to say the least. Okay, once your shims are installed, go ahead and drop your valve buckets back on. These just slip right in. And make sure there's a little bit of oil on them still. We don't want to put them in dry. It's kind of bad. They can be kind of snug in here. And there we go. And then I've already moved our cam chain out of the way, because the cam will not install without that cam chain out of the way. So that should be good there. Now take your cam, and a little tip for installing this cam, this bearing right here. So, let me show you. Slides left and right. Go ahead and move it all the way over to the left. Drop that in below your rocker arm, and then slide that bearing back over, and it will just chill right there where it's supposed to be, just like that. So nothing to it. Now we can grab our cam caps, and our cam caps are easy to install. Remember, one of them has a little oil port there. That's going to be your left cam cap. That will sit right here, and then you may need to move that bearing kind of left and right just a little bit to get it to align with that alignment ring. I already got it crooked here. There we go. And let's get that aligned here. There we go. Once it's aligned, it just pops right on. And then same thing with this one here. Go ahead and pop it on. This one should be aligned already, which it is. Then, of course, take your bolts and run them all the way down. And when I say run them all the way down, I mean just snug. So I'm going to take my Milwaukee ratchet here and snug these up. Okay, now, if you guys remember, our clearances were 0.28 on the exhaust and 0.12 or 1.3 on the intake. So I've got my 2.8 out right now. I'm going to go ahead and check my exhaust clearance and see what I have. So before I do that, I want to make sure that my cam lobe is facing out. And actually, wow, that is perfect on that exhaust right there. Let's check the other side, see if we're good. I have to wrap around here and see if we're good to go. So I'm basically just kind of holding this cam at about top dead center timing. And, ooh, man, that feels really good. Let me double check. Yep, my cam is at about top dead center timing, so that's perfect resistance. That's what we want. Okay, so we know our exhaust valves are in check. Let's go ahead and check our intake valves now. And they were 0.13, I think it was. 12, 13. either way, close enough. As long as we're, you know, within that 100th of a millimeter. Okay, let's check this out here. It's kind of hard. I want to film it so you guys can see this. Roll my cam at where top dead center would be. And oh my gosh, that is money. Let's check this one here. And it's not really wanting to go in on 0.13. Okay, so let's check it with 0.12. Remember, we can be plus or minus 0.03 millimeters. So no big deal that 0.13 won't go in. We'll just go to the next feeler gauge and see what we have. Okay, let's try a 0.10. And we'll slide that in there and see if it goes. Oh yeah, 0.10 is actually kind of loose in there. So I'm about 0.12, so that's perfect. Okay, that makes me feel really good about it. Now we'll go ahead and we'll take our cam caps back off and we will get our timing correct. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually remove my cam, slide that bearing over, lift that out, nice and easy. Set this somewhere where it's not going to get damaged or fall. And then I'm going to bring this cam chain back up and I'm going to remove my wire. Now at this point I want to double check that I'm at top dead center on my timing marks, because if anything rolled at all, I'm going to make sure we're at top dead center. So I am good to go there. I'm not worried about my TDC. I'm going to remove this, and the reason I need to remove that is because it will not go on this cam with the wire on it. So anyway, okay, go ahead and slip that in, and then go ahead and align your marks flush with the head as best that you can, and you're going to roll this chain ever so gently around the cam and get it on there. So it helps if you can tilt it just a little bit. And this is a trial and error thing. You're probably not going to get it right the first time, and that's perfectly fine. So, you know, don't be frustrated with the process. Just do it again. It's not a huge deal. So actually, I think I need to go on, if I remember right on these Hondas, I got to go on the tensioner side first. So it's kind of a fun little mess here that we have to finagle this chain up on here. There we go. And, you know, video purposes, there's no way I'm going to get this lined up the very first time probably. But we'll see what happens here. Oh yeah, see, I'm one tooth off. So I'm going to roll this down, this cam down one tooth. Pick it back up out of here. Roll it down one tooth. There we go. And then just kind of loop the rest over. And double check my timing down here. Make sure I'm good. And I look pretty good. I look pretty good. So I'm going to lift this bearing back up here, slide it over. That would be my cam installed. Timing marks look good. So at this point, I'm going to put my cam caps on and see what I look like. Let me pop the camera off, kind of show you guys what we're looking for here, just to refresh your memory. So what I'm looking at is I have my alignment marks right here, flush with my head, that little notch. Let me zoom in here, see if you can see that. Oh, focus camera, focus. There we go. You guys can see that little notch right there, and then you have the same notch right there. So those need to be flush with the head, and as you can see, I'm pretty much golden. And then my timing marks inside of there are still aligned, and then we have the one on the opposite side of the motor that we checked when we took it all apart. So now that I'm timed and my cam lobes are towards the back, valve buckets are in, everything's good. We're going to go ahead and put our cam caps back on and release our tensioner and make sure our timing is good. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and torque these bolts. I don't remember for sure what it was to be exact, but I think it's what I normally torque my cam cap bolts at, 7.2, 7.3 foot-pounds. And always torque your motor parts, always. And you can never go wrong. So never ever had a failure due to torque. You can have a failure due to not torquing them, but not if you do it correctly. Last one, here we go. Okay, we're good to go there. And now what I'm gonna do, and I like to do this check, I'm gonna roll the motor over, I'm gonna check my timing one more time, and then I know I can go ahead and button this back up. Okay, my timing looks great. So I made sure my tensioner was tight again. I just turned it counterclockwise and it's good to go. So put our tensioner bolt back in, and then we will go ahead and install our valve cover and go back together with everything. And then of course do a test fire up and make sure the bike runs like a champ. So the owner said, the one who has been running this bike for the last few, I don't know, I think he's put about 20 or 30 hours on it, he said. Oh, torque wrench shutting off. He said it's been very hard to start. I can imagine why, because of the issues that we had with the valves. So I told him once this is adjusted, it should fire first or second kick. So we're going to put it on video and see if we can get it to fire first or second kick. So let's put our cover back on over here on the other side. Put our valve cover back on, and then I'll just button up the plastics and give her a college try. Okay, she's back together. Let's see if it fires up. Turn our fuel on. I'm not even gonna choke it. Just gonna turn the fuel on, make sure we're neutral, which we are. Okay, FCR carbs, which is this bike. Most, you know, from like, I think 05 to basically fuel injected, has the FCR carbs on the 250, 450s. So they're just different sizes, but the easy way to start an FCR carb bike when it's dialed in, like this one is now, is to go ahead and flick your throttle 2 or 3 times. I did it 4 times because I'm purging that carburetor of that fuel, and that dumps fuel into the cylinder. So after that, if it's good weather, you should be able to kick it over if your jetting's correct. Go to top dead center. TDC right there, and ooh, almost first kick. Let's go top dead center right there. So I'm going to give it another flick to the throttle. Couple kicks. Looks like the idle needs adjusted just a little bit. Turn that idle up just a tad. And, ooh, so close. You can hear the compression release right there. Okay. It's gonna want choke. She's a Honda. They live and die by the choke, so let's give it a little choke here. garage before I die of carbon monoxide poisoning. All right, guys, and there is a successful valve adjustment on a CRF250R. 2007, 2006? Anyway, bike's running good. Happy with it. I dumped a little fuel there on the ground, but other than that, she's good to go. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video, took something away from it. Do your own valve adjustment next time, and learn about your motorcycle. That's the best part about it, is learning about your bike and then maintaining it. That way you know everything's done correctly. So I will put a link down below for all the tools, everything that you will need for this, including the Milwaukee tools, which are the best. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed it, please give me a like, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.
Yeah.